Hello, magical adventurers. Welcome to Fantasy Reimagined. Here fantasy stories come to life. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to join our enchanting journeys and never miss a new adventure. See you in the realms of wonder. The first magic and martial arts contest ended without any surprises, and Cheeky won the championship with an absolute advantage. Sun Tian asked the limelight-loving Clin to show his true strength on stage, and encouraged all the students on behalf of the Holy Land. Under the enthusiastic eyes of the students, the first magic and martial arts contest of the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land ended. 1 year later, the Magic Martial Arts Holy Land sent Clin to lead the team and bring the 8 best students to participate in the world's first martial arts conference. With the attitude of contracting the top 8, the Magic Martial Arts Holy Land once again made a name for itself. After 2 years of development, the various systems of the Magic Martial Arts Holy Land have been basically perfected, including the contribution system, consumption system, promotion system, task system, etc. In addition to the original members at the beginning, the new members gradually developed a sense of belonging to the Holy Land. The most important currency in the Holy Land is no longer money, but contribution. For example, to use the gravity room, in addition to reaching the standard of cultivation, sufficient contribution is also required. For example, to use the nutrition treatment cabin, contribution is also required. Moreover, as the reputation of the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land spread, the whole world began to rely on the Magic and Martial Arts task system and issue tasks, resulting in more and more tasks in the task system. Students with ability also have the possibility to accumulate contribution points. At the same time, relying on the Magic and Martial Arts task system, Bulma was inspired by the mercenary theory from Sun Tian, and created the Magic and Martial Arts mercenary system. The establishment of the Magic and Martial Arts mercenary system, on the one hand, some tasks need to be completed by students in teams, and on the other hand, it is also to attract outside warriors to join. For a time the Holy Land was very lively. Some members practiced while completing tasks to obtain contribution points, and outside warriors were gradually attracted to the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land. They came to the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land to register for mercenary groups in order to exchange for items unique to the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land, and even attended lectures in the Holy Land. There is no time for cultivation. 3 years have passed in a flash. Today on Earth, the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts has become a transcendent existence outside the political power. At the beginning there was a government that made some threats from the Magic and Martial Arts, but Piccolo went to the government in a rage and destroyed the capital of the country with one move, shutting up those politicians who wanted to say something. In 3 years, members who graduated from the Magic and Martial Arts School have gone deep into every corner of the world and opened branches to better attract talents. The Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts has also been involved in various aspects. So far, there is basically no one who doesn't know about the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts. Combat power testing machines have also begun to spread to various regions. Today, except for a few places on Earth, the previous standards are rarely used. Generally, when you meet, you are tested on your combat power. As young people like Krillin, Leping, Jiaozi and others broke through to the level of myth, that is a combat power of more than 200, the two sages, Kame and Crane, also focused their attention on cultivating talents, thinking that future battles would probably be dominated by young people. Of course, in 3 years, Sun Tian has officially married Cheeky, and Tian Xinhan, Krillin, Leping and others have also married, which has given everyone more goals in their practice. If they were protecting the earth before, now they have one more goal to protect their loved ones. Among all the young people, only Bulma is still single. It's not that no one is pursuing her. Leping pursued her before, but was beaten out by Sun Tian. There are not many reasons. However, only Bulma knows that it is not that Sun Tian likes her, but that Sun Tian once told her that in a few years a man who truly belongs to Bulma will appear. Of course, Leping doesn't know this. In 3 years, everyone's strength has become stronger. Now Piccolo's combat power has already exceeded 1,000, up to 1,374 combat power, and Sun Tian is even stronger. With the practice of the ancient ape magic art, the ape magic true Qi is condensed, and his combat power is as high as 2,784, which is much stronger than Piccolo. It can be said that he has completely stabilized his cultivation in the early stage of Qi training. Next is Son Gohan with a combat power of, and Tian Xinhan, with a combat power of Krillin, Yamcha, Gyoza, Chi-Chi, and although Kamehameha has been busy teaching, he has also made further progress, with combat power of 787 and 743 respectively, while Bull Demon King has also broken through the myth and reached 374, and Tao Pai Pai 630. The overall level has been significantly improved, and the highest of those who entered the Holy Land for training has reached 147, and they have graduated and are working outside. According to the regulations of the Holy Land, you can graduate when your combat power reaches 80%. You can choose to continue to stay in the Holy Land as a mentor, or go out to practice on your own. In space, a ball-shaped spaceship is flying, and inside it is a man with waist-length hair and a resolute face. If you look closely, you will find that he has a tail tied around his waist like Sun Tian. After completing the mission last time, Vegeta and the other two took on the task of occupying a powerful planet dozens of light years away from the Earth. The reason for choosing this planet is to provide a good excuse for Raditz to travel. The three did fall into a hard battle when attacking the planet, but it was not to the point that Vegeta, whose combat power was as high as 18,000, really needed to find foreign aid. The highest combat power of this planet is only about 1W2, and even if there are any means, it is impossible for Vegeta to be the opponent. But the war fell into a stalemate, of course. Vegeta did it on purpose. During the period, Vegeta reported that Latiz had died in the battle. In fact, he robbed a spaceship to let Latiz escape, so that he could go to Earth to check if Kakarot was still alive. If he was alive, let the two settle down first and find a way to meet him and Nappa later. If he was dead, let the Earth be hidden for Kakarot. The three believed that there would be no problem for Latiz, who was born in a fighting nation. You must know that although Latiz was the weakest among the three, he was also nearly 2,000 combat power. In addition, he was born in a fighting nation, so his combat talent was self-evident. Although he was not as good as Vegeta, he was much higher than Nappa. If Nappa was not nearly 10 years older than Latiz, it would be hard to say who was stronger between the two. I will see you in 1 year, my brother. I hope nothing happens to you. Although I don't have the ability to destroy a planet, I can still kill the low-level natives of this marginal planet. Latiz set the automatic route, slowly closed his eyes and fell into a dormant state. In front of a residence in the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts, everyone is surrounding the residence. Sun Tian is constantly turning around, looking very anxious. Don't turn, don't worry, it's okay. After all, Chi-Chi is a cultivator with a combat power of nearly 500. She will be fine. Bulma looked at Sun Tian's anxious expression and felt that Sun Tian was somewhat like a human at this moment. Yeah, you are also a master. How come you are not as good as me? It's just giving birth to a child. Piccolo was speechless. Humans are so troublesome. What's there to worry about giving birth to a child? For him, all he needs to do is chant a spell and spit out an egg, although such a child cannot be considered their real bloodline. Haha, the others also laughed. Wow, wow. Suddenly a baby crying was heard in the room, and Sun Tian rushed into the room in a hurry. Congratulations, it's a boy. The midwife saw Sun Tian coming in and knew that Sun Tian was the father of the child. Sun Tian walked to the bed, held Chiqui's hand and asked with concern, Chiqui, are you okay? What can happen? I'm a legendary master after all. Don't worry. Look how anxious you are. A sweet smile appeared on Chi-Chi's face. To be honest, at first Chi-Chi thought that Sun Tian would not want her and Bulma to be together, but in the end he still married her. But this is no wonder. When the Holy Land was first built, Sun Tian often discussed some future plans with Bulma. During that time, Chi-Chi was really scared. It seemed that after everything was on track, Sun Tian returned to her. Haha, I'm a father now, bring it here for me to see. Sun Tian said happily to the midwife while holding Chiqui's hand. At this time the midwife had already cleaned up and washed the baby. As for the baby having a tail, it was nothing strange for the magic martial Holy Land. Sun Tian took the baby, looked at his bright eyes, felt the call from his blood, and sighed, realizing that he had been in this world for 21 years without realizing it. Give the child a name, husband. Chi-Chi's face glowed with maternal love. Okay, let's call him Kishan, what do you think? Sun Tian said. In fact, ever since Chi-Chi became pregnant, Sun Tian began to think about the child's name. It's impossible to call him Son Gohan, as senior brother Gohan is still alive. It would feel weird to call him Sun Wukong. After thinking about it, he thought of the Monkey King Sun Wukong in his previous life, so he decided to just call him Kishan. Sun Kishan. Sun Kishan, Kishan, equal to heaven. Okay, let's call him this name, Chi-Chi said, tasting the name. Chiqui, you have a good rest. I will take Kishan out to meet everyone. Everyone is outside, Sun Tian said at this time. Okay, our child is not delicate. I can feel that Kishan has a strong power. Chiqui is also a mythical master, so her sense is naturally terrifying. Sun Tian brought Kishan out, and a group of people surrounded him, congratulating him. Let me see how strong little Kishan is. At some point an instrument that looked a bit like glasses appeared in Bulma's hand. Hey, combat power detection glasses, when were they developed? Sun Tian said in surprise. You know, Sun Tian only mentioned this idea to Bulma, but he didn't expect Bulma to actually do it. Let's talk about it later. Let's first see how strong the little guy is, Bulma said. Bulma put on the glasses, pressed a few times on the side of the glasses and aimed them at the little guy. Beep beep beep, numbers kept jumping on the lens and finally stopped. How much? Everyone asked, and they were also a little curious. Oh my god, guess? Bulma said in surprise. 50, 80, 30, 100. Everyone reported what they thought. In everyone's opinion, a baby can only have 30 at most. If it can reach 100, it would be amazing. None of them are right. You underestimate Sun Tian's child too much. The combat power is shown as 183, which is unimaginable, Bulma said. What? Impossible. He was born with the combat power of a master. I feel like I have lived in vain all these years, Krillin said. Is your instrument accurate? Host Ning said. Let's test yours again and we will know if it is accurate. Bulma rolled her eyes. She actually doubted my invention. I will deal with you when my future husband comes. Ever since Sun Tian told her about Vegeta, Bulma has never seen anyone, but she regards herself as Vegeta's wife. Hey woman, as she said that, Bulma pointed at Krillin and pressed the button. Beep, beep, beep. What's the result? Krillin asked. He remembered that his combat power was 817 during the last test. He wondered if he had gotten stronger. 843. Krillin has gotten stronger again, Bulma said. It's true. Could it be that this kid really has a combat power of 183? That's too exaggerated. Krillin felt like he had received 1,000 critical hits. Look at mine. Dumpling, who had a dark circle under his eye, said, beep, beep, beep. The dumplings are 515, Bulma said after the test. Well, it seems to be accurate, but I didn't expect it to be so strong, Piccolo said with stars in his eyes. Sun Tian, let's make a deal. I will teach your child in person in the future. Finally, his true identity was revealed. Everyone had an expression as if they had known it would be like this. But they really didn't dare to compete with the big devil. By the way, has the child been named? Bulma asked. Rise up Kitchen, Sun Kitchen, Sun Tian replied. Wow, this is a great name, as good as the sky. I didn't expect you to be so good at naming. I didn't realize that. I thought you only knew how to practice, Bulma said with a smile. Pick, let's talk about it after a year. Chi-Tian is still young, and the key is that we still have some work to do with Chi-Chi, Sun Tian said to Pick, not knowing if it was fate, but Pick felt a sense of familiarity when he saw Chi-Tian. This feeling came inexplicably, as if this child was a disciple born for him. Okay, it's settled then. Anyway, you are good at practicing, but you definitely can't teach disciples. I can't do it, Piccolo turned on the master mode and said in a serious tone. Although everyone was jealous that Piccolo was about to receive such a good disciple, no one dared to compete with the great devil Piccolo. 1 year later at the Magic Martial Holy Land, at Sun Tian's home, Piccolo and the others gathered early, because today was Chi-Tian's first birthday, and it was also the day that Piccolo officially accepted Chi-Tian as his apprentice. Hello uncles, Aunt Bulma, Grandpa Wu-Tian, and Grandpa Crane Immortal. Chi-Tian, who was already 1 year old, looked at everyone and greeted them one by one. Chi-Tian was able to speak when he was less than half a year old, and now he can communicate with people normally? Chi-Tian, good boy, here is a gift from Uncle, Clin said with a smile. The others also took out the gifts they had prepared. Chi-Tian's face turned red with joy and he kept acting like a good kid. After a while, the servants prepared lunch and everyone was talking and laughing. Compared to the usual hard practice, today was a rare day of rest. Come on, let's see how strong our 1 year old Chi-Tian is now. Bulma took out the strength detection glasses from her hand like a magic trick. Originally, Bulma prepared this thing for everyone, but everyone knew that this thing was just a reference. They would not think about what would happen just because of this value, so they never relied on this thing and did not want it. On the contrary, this thing is deeply loved by the students of the Magic Martial Arts Holy Land and other martial artists. Now this kind of combat power detection glasses is also the most exchanged equipment in the Magic Martial Arts exchange system, although the contribution value of one piece is as high as 5,000. Bulma adjusted the angle and aimed at Chi-Tian. Beep beep beep, oh my god, the combat power is 289, Bulma exclaimed. Ha ha ha, worthy of being the disciple chosen by my great devil? Not bad, really not bad. When Piccolo heard this, he seemed to be even happier than when his own combat power broke through 1,500. After a good year of training, Piccolo has made another breakthrough and his combat power value has now reached 1,593. Master Piccolo, when will I go to practice with you? I want to become stronger too, so that I can beat Tien Shinhan and crush Krillin with one hand, little Chi-Tian said excitedly. It seems that he will be a natural fighting maniac in the future. Yes, in less than 5 years you can achieve your goal. When Piccolo heard this, he felt that it was exactly what he wanted. Tien Shinhan and Krillin looked confused. They just came to Sun Tian for a sparring match half a year ago, but were beaten by Sun Tian with less than 10% of his strength. Little Kishin was watching at the side at that time, and heard Sun Tian say that you guys need to work harder with your strength. Look, I can beat you with 10% of my strength, I can overwhelm you with one hand and so on. Little Kishin felt so good that he just said it directly. After lunch, everyone suggested going to the beach, and it happened that the Turtle Master's Island was still there, so everyone set off for a day trip to the Turtle House. On the Turtle Island, everyone relaxed and chatted with each other. In the solar system, a meatball-shaped spaceship is flying. We are about to reach our destination. Wake up, Lord Latitz, a voice came from inside the spaceship. Latitz opened her eyes and came back to her senses. Are we almost at our destination? Kakarot, here I come, Latitz said to himself. The spacecraft flew through space and headed straight for the Earth. It soon entered the atmosphere, leaving behind a long tail of air currents. In a farm, a middle-aged man was working. Suddenly he looked up at the sky and saw a flying object falling rapidly. Soon, a loud crashing sound was heard in the distance. The middle-aged farmer didn't know what it was, so he drove to investigate. He saw a spherical object with a diameter of about 3 meters lying in a nearly 20-meter deep pit. Mumble. As the hatch opened, a figure walked out. The figure moved and slowly stood up, but what was incomprehensible was that this person was just floating in the air. Latiz looked around, felt the gravity of the earth and slowly flew out of the deep pit. You, who are you? What do you want to do? The middle-aged farmer was dominated by fear, as if the person standing in front of him was not a human, but a Tyrannosaurus Rex coming from the desert. The hunting rifle held in both hands could not bring him any sense of security. Latiz looked at the human in front of him, who actually had the same appearance as the Saiyan, but without a tail. He pressed the combat power detector. Combat strength 5, a trash race, Latiz sneered. Don't come over here or I'll shoot. The middle-aged farmer looked panicked, aiming his hunting rifle at Latiz, and pulled the trigger because he was shaking and unsteady. Bang! A bullet shot straight at Latiz. Latiz grabbed it casually, and a bullet was pinched between his 2 fingers. Humph! With a cold snort, a scum with a combat power of 5 actually dared to shoot at me. With a light flick, the bullet returned, pierced through the middle-aged farmer's head, flew backwards with his family members, and hit the car behind. Boom! The car exploded and the middle-aged farmer fell to the ground and died. With a disdainful look, Latiz rose into the air. Let's take a look at the highest combat power of this planet first. I didn't expect that this planet has not been destroyed yet, Latiz said to himself. Well, there are actually quite a few on this planet with a combat power of over 100. What's going on? Looking at the detected data, Latiz became a little worried about Kakarot. After all, Kakarot in his infancy couldn't deal with these people. Well, what's going on in this direction? Combat 1593, combat power 843, combat power 587, combat power. Looking at these sets of data, Latiz fell into deep thought. This shouldn't be the case. How could this be a low-level planet? Could it have only developed in the past 100 years? Saiyans often classify planets and generally update the data every 100 years. This is why sometimes the Saiyan children sent out die. The high-end combat power of this planet is concentrated together. The combat power of 1593 is also a certain threat to me. Kakarot can never grow so fast. According to my father, Kakarot's combat power was only 10 when he was born. Even if it is against the will of heaven, at the age of 22, he can only have 800 at most. Is something wrong with Kakarot? No matter what, let's go over and take a look. Ask clearly, Latiz said to himself. After saying that, he turned around and flew towards Turtle Island. When Latiz came to Earth, the warriors who had exchanged the combat power detection glasses of the magic martial Holy Land discovered this power. Oh my god, the combat power is 1983. It is higher than the great demon King Piccolo of our Holy Land, and second only to Lord Sun Tian. The discussion has already started on the Magic and Martial Arts Forum. Some say it is aliens, some say it is a powerful person who has hidden himself from the world. There are many different opinions. Let's not talk about it for now. Sun Tian and others were having fun on Kami Island, not knowing that because of Sun Tian, Vegeta and the other two had discovered the existence of Earth in advance and arranged for Latiz to come. You should know that according to the original work, Chi Tian might not have been born at this time, and Latiz's arrival might not be until 5 years later. The development of the story is always surprisingly similar, although some changes have been made. In front of the Kame house, Sun Tian and Piccolo were very powerful, and soon they found a strong and violent aura coming towards them. Soon, others also found it. However, for everyone, although this aura was strong, it was not enough to scare them. Not to mention Sun Tian's bottomless strength. Even if Piccolo really exploded, he would not necessarily lose to the newcomer. Just watch and see. About a quarter of an hour later, the figure of Latiz slowly appeared in the sky, and a strong hatred and momentum burst out from him. Since Sun Tian was playing with Chi Tian in the house and this kind of less than 2000 Chi was not worth Sun Tian's attention, Piccolo was enough. Sun Tian did not expect that Latiz would arrive early, because according to his previous life memory, they still had to give them nearly 4 to 5 years of development time. As soon as Latiz arrived, he found that the energy with a strength of 1593 was not from a Saiyan, and none of the other people matched the image of Kakarot in his memory. Latiz subconsciously believed that Kakarot might have been killed by a local strongman. He knew that the Saiyans transformed at the full moon. Since there were such strong men on this planet, they would not be opponents even if they transformed. Latiz suppressed his anger and fell to the ground. Who are you? I remember that you are not among the strong men on Earth. At this moment, Piccolo finally believed what Sun Tian said, that one day in the future, the Earth would be invaded by aliens. Haha, who am I? You ask me who I am? Latiz was ignited with anger when he thought that it might be the strong man in front of him who killed his brother. If he didn't know whether his brother was still alive before, it would be nothing. But now that he finally knew, he found that his brother might have been killed. You are all going to die. I want the entire planet to be buried with my brother. Latiz unleashed her anger without reservation. What do you mean, your brother? Who are you? What do you want to do on Earth? Piccolo was also angry. The calm heart he had cultivated with Sun Tian was finally broken. An energy that was no less powerful than that of Raditz burst out from Piccolo, and the rest of the people all retreated. This kind of battle was no longer something they could participate in. Even Tien Shinhan, the strongest among them, had just broken through 1,000. When Latitz saw that Piccolo was filled with demonic energy and his power exploded, it was almost as powerful as his normal state. He became more and more certain that this man was the one who killed his brother. When Sun Tian appeared, the others had already discovered it, but they did not expect that they would arrive so many years in advance. It was also a surprise. However, Sun Tian was usually used to restraining his aura. Otherwise, Latitz would find that in addition to Piccolo, there was another stronger aura here, so strong that it would make him lose the confidence to fight. However, Sun Tian also wanted to meet this legendary brother. After listening to his conversation, he knew that his brother came for him. He probably thought that he died at the hands of Piccolo, so he was so furious. He sighed for no reason in his heart. Thinking about the memories of his previous life, Sun Wukong was really not a human. You have to know how much combat power Sun Wukong and Piccolo had at that time. Although Raditz didn't say it, it was at least about 1,500 to 2,000. If he didn't have the intention to kill, how could he be killed by Piccolo and Sun Wukong together? From the battle at that time, it can be seen that, except for Piccolo, Raditz was tolerant of Sun Wukong again and again. Piccolo and Sun Wukong were not much different in combat power at that time. If Raditz didn't let him go, why did Piccolo's hand get cut off by one move, and Sun Wukong actually fought back and forth with Raditz? In the end, because Sun Wukong grabbed his tail and lost most of his strength, he was seriously injured by little Gohan's power. In the end, Piccolo picked up his head and got a double kill. Looks like it's you. In that case, I will kill you first. And then I will massacre the entire planet to avenge my brother. Latitz had calmed down his angry heart by now. As a fighting nation, once entering the war, they must be calm enough. They can appear extremely angry on the surface, but their hearts must be as calm as still water. The two men set up their positions and the battle was about to begin. Without any words, Latitz dived and attacked Piccolo head-on. His first move was earth-shattering without any hesitation. Seeing that Latitz was attacking head-on without any tricks, Piccolo just took it head-on. In a flash, the two fought for nearly 100 rounds. When they separated again, Piccolo was already seriously injured. Latitz was not doing well either, but Piccolo had the upper hand. When they looked at each other, they both found that they underestimated each other. Latitz's judgment was based on the combat power detector, while Piccolo relied on the sense of energy. Although Piccolo's instant burst of combat power has surpassed Latitz by a lot, as Latitz has been fighting on the front line for a long time, this slight gap cannot help Piccolo win. Although Piccolo is also experienced in combat, he is still far behind Latitz. Usually when fighting with Sun Tian, he is not really fighting to the death. Now that he has met Latitz, who is not much different from him, he is in a disadvantageous position. You are strong, but you are not my opponent. I will definitely defeat you in rounds. Latitz began his verbal offensive. Latitz, who often fights, naturally knows the importance of confidence. If he can break the opponent's confidence, he has already won half the battle. Who is Lord Piccolo? He roamed the earth for hundreds of past lives. Even if he was reborn this time, if he hadn't been tricked by the dragon, he would probably have to fight with Sun Tian and the others. Despite this, in today's Earth, apart from Sun Tian, this perverted character, who else can be Lord Piccolo's opponent? Even the clone of God has been left behind long ago. How could he lose confidence because of a few words from Latitz? Humph, stop bragging. Don't even mention 300 rounds. Even if it's 1,000 rounds, you're still not my opponent, Lord Piccolo responded. In a duel between masters, you won't have the chance to use your ultimate moves. Both of them will fight in a real way head-on. Even if they use gas bombs, they are only used for interference and assistance. The two fought for nearly 200 rounds, looking at each other with suspicion. Latitz couldn't help but marvel at the strength of his opponent. If it was anyone else, even if they had the same combat power, Latitz would be able to defeat them. But against Piccolo, he could only suppress the opponent and could not cause decisive damage. Since Piccolo's comeback, except for the battle with Sun Tian, he has crushed everyone else. However, Sun Tian is too strong, and often Sun Tian suppresses Piccolo's combat power to about 2/3 of Piccolo's. But even so, Piccolo still finds it difficult to win. I didn't expect that today. When I fought with the aliens for the first time, the two of them were obviously almost the same in terms of energy, but they couldn't do anything to each other for a while, and even felt suppressed by each other. The two of them were furious at the beginning of the fight, and now they are so sympathetic that they think if they were not opponents, they would definitely become friends. Latitz had to adjust his state, and Piccolo had to re-understand this battle. Soon, 300 rounds passed, and both Latitz and Piccolo felt a little short of breath, but they had to take it seriously. Ha ha ha, didn't you say you would beat me in 300 rounds? It's almost 500 rounds already? Piccolo retorted with a psychological tactic. His language was very disturbing. Humph, I didn't expect that such a strong man like you would appear on such a distant planet. It's really beyond my expectation. If you hadn't killed my brother, I really wouldn't have used this trick. But since you are a strong man, you are qualified to let me use this trick. Are you prepared to die? Latiz said. For revenge, Latiz decided not to care about reason. Latiz and Piccolo hit each other with fists, and each retreated a few hundred meters. At this moment, a ball of light appeared in Latiz's hand. Piccolo clearly felt that after Latiz used the ball of light, the energy in his body dropped significantly. Suddenly, Latiz threw the ball of light into the sky and shouted, "Appear, artificial moon!" To be honest, Raditz really didn't want to use this move if it wasn't necessary. In the past, even if he encountered a strong enemy, Vegeta and the others would help him, but this time on Earth, he could only rely on himself. Although the artificial moon move would use up nearly 1/3 of his energy, if he could use it to avenge his brother, even if he lost his mind for a while, it wouldn't matter. This was probably the only thing he could do for his brother, even though he had never met this brother. And this move was specially taught to him by Vegeta before he left, in order to prevent any accidents. Although Latiz was not strong enough and the moon he created could only last for 15 minutes, he believed that 15 minutes would be enough and he would be able to get rid of all the people in front of him within 15 minutes. The ball of light shot into the air, mixed with the oxygen of the earth and exploded with a bang, and a bright moon appeared in its place. Piccolo had a bad feeling in his heart, and always felt that something unexpected would happen, but when he thought of Sun Tian's strength, he did not interrupt. An artificial moon, is that a hoax? The others looked as if they had seen a ghost. Sun Tian came out with Chi Tian without knowing when, looked at the moon in the sky, and immediately cut off the reaction of his tail. This was something Sun Tian could control only after he entered the Chi training stage. Then he patted Chi Tian lightly, and the latter fell asleep directly. Sun Tian didn't want Chi Tian to become a giant ape. Latiz looked up at the sky, let go of his tail that had been tied up, and his heart was beating violently. Hey, a tail, the same tail as Sun Tian. Is he a Saiyan, and his so-called brother is Sun Tian? Piccolo saw Latiz's tail and started to guess, but it was too late. Roar! A roar interrupted Piccolo's thoughts. He saw a giant ape nearly 50 meters tall appeared where Latiz was standing, and Latiz was nowhere to be found. Well, this giant ape's combat suit? Smart Piccolo immediately knew what was going on, but then Latiz, who had already become weak, suddenly became more powerful. A force far stronger than Latiz's just now came towards him, and this force was even more violent than before. Piccolo was almost unable to breathe due to the pressure. No way so strong. The great demon King Piccolo felt the breath from the giant ape and looked at the giant ape with red eyes. Retreat quickly, but the giant ape ignored Piccolo and beat his chest. How dare you look down on me? Piccolo felt his self-esteem was hit. A gas bullet took shape in his hand and threw it at the giant ape, but it didn't hurt the giant ape at all. Perhaps because of Piccolo's attack, the giant ape looked at Piccolo, which made Piccolo feel nervous and he felt like he was being stared at by a prehistoric beast. The giant ape opened its mouth and a qigong bullet that was 10 times bigger than Piccolo's just now quickly formed. Get out of the way, or you will die. Sun Tian saw Piccolo was distracted and quickly reminded him. Ah! Piccolo came back to his senses and saw the qigong bullet coming straight at him. He moved his body with difficulty and barely avoided the attack of the qigong bullet. But his left arm had disappeared, and a drop of blood was shed. Sun Tian quickly brought Piccolo to the ground and looked at his injuries. He asked Tian Xinhan and others to help take care of him. Then he flew into the air and faced the giant ape transformed by Latiz, feeling the energy released from his body. This energy is about 8,000. It seems that the so-called transformation that is 10 times stronger is not absolute. But think about it. If the transformation is really times stronger, then it is too mysterious. Think about the previous life story, when Vegeta came to Earth and fought with Sun Wukong. Although Vegeta could easily beat Sun Wukong when he transformed into a giant ape, it was obvious that his combat power was only about 20,000 to 30,000 at most. Also, on Namek, Vegeta did not transform into a giant ape to solve the battle when he met the Ginyu Special Forces. Although some people would say that Vegeta did not have a tail at that time. Looking at the fear when facing the Ginyu members at that time, it was obvious that he had been exposed to it before. If he could do it by transforming into a giant ape, he would definitely not have a shadow in his heart. Looking at the giant ape in front of him, Sun Tian also sighed. He did not expect that this brother who had never met him would actually transform and lose his mind for him, but the most urgent thing was to solve the problem. Sun Tian exudes a strong will to fight, and the usually restrained breath slowly emanates from his body. If Bulma takes out the combat detection eye to observe it this time, he will find that Sun Tian's current combat value has exceeded 5,000. The giant ape Latiz felt Sun Tian's breath and put Piccolo and others aside. Out of instinct, the giant ape knew that the owner of this breath could already threaten his life. Sun Tian condensed a gas bomb in his hand, threw it to the giant ape and then flew away. Prepare to move the battlefield to prevent the battle from spreading to everyone. The giant ape was attacked by the gas bomb, and his body tightened. Although he was not hurt, he also felt pain. Seeing Sun Tian flying, he also chased after him. Although the giant ape's body breath combat power is nearly 8,000, after all its body is too big, and its speed is greatly limited, Sun Tian used his own advantages to continuously attack with gas bombs around. The irrational giant ape can still suppress Piccolo and others, but it can't do it against Sun Tian. Fortunately, Sun Tian did not intend to really hurt the giant ape, otherwise even the giant ape Latiz with a combat power of nearly 8,000 could not be Sun Tian's opponent. Piccolo and his people felt the battle in the distance and found that they seemed to be getting farther and farther away from Sun Tian. A battle like this can't help at all and everyone feels heavy in their hearts. Fortunately, the artificial moon can only last for 15 minutes. With Sun Tian letting up, even though the giant ape wanted to kill Sun Tian, it couldn't have an overwhelming advantage in terms of speed or combat power, and the fight ended in a hurry. After regaining his human form, Latiz regained his sanity. He looked at his opponent who had been replaced at some point, and then looked at his opponent's appearance. You are Kakarot. Latiz couldn't believe it. In his heart, especially when he saw Piccolo before, he had already determined that Kakarot was dead. He didn't expect that after he turned into a giant ape and recovered, he found that the opponent in front of him was actually the brother he was looking for. And there was no need to doubt it. Sun Tian and Bardock looked like they were carved from the same mold. Look at the tail tied around Sun Tian's waist. Hey brother, have you recovered? Sun Tian said with a smile. Well, you know me. When Raditz heard Sun Tian calling him big brother, he finally came to his senses. But he didn't expect Kakarot to know his big brother, so he asked in confusion. Of course, I knew when you came to our island, but I didn't know why you came, so I didn't come out to meet you, Sun Tian said. Ha ha, I didn't expect you weren't dead. You really are, Kakarot. You made me so worried just now, Latiz said. When I first arrived on this planet, I found that there were not many warriors with a combat power of over 500, and there were even some with a combat power of over 1,500. I didn't even have any hope at the time, he continued. Thank you for your concern, big brother. I didn't expect you to be so strong that you can fight Piccolo on equal terms without transforming. You know, apart from me, Piccolo is the strongest being on our Earth, Sun Tian said. But in his heart he thought, it's a good thing that you arrived 4 or 5 years earlier. Otherwise I really wouldn't be able to defeat Piccolo. But this big brother is really strong and has good fighting skills, otherwise with Piccolo's strength, people with the same fighting power are no match for him. Pico, is that the green-skinned human who just called himself the Demon King? He doesn't look like a human from this planet, does he? Raditz also reacted at this time. When he first arrived, he only thought about revenge for Kakarot and didn't think about this. No, it can be said that just like me when I was very young, my hometown planet encountered a drastic change in the weather, so I came to Earth, Sun Tian said. But that guy came to Earth more than 400 years ago, and was sealed for 400 years. He only broke the seal recently. Otherwise I might not be his opponent, he continued. I have never seen such a shameless person. He starts to expose other people's secrets as soon as he has a big brother. If Piccolo knew this, even if he couldn't beat him, he would still be angry with Sun Tian. Oh, no wonder. By the way, what is your current strength? You can actually hold out for so long with my transformed giant ape. It seems that you didn't use much strength? Latiz finally reacted. He could hold out for 15 minutes with a giant ape he transformed into. It seems that his younger brother is incredible. Not that strong, but should be stronger than big brother. Sun Tian couldn't say, I can kill you in seconds, so he said ambiguously. Stronger? You can easily fight against my giant ape transformation. If you don't have a combat power of 4,500, don't even think about it. He looked like I see through you. Combat power? What is that? Sun Tian pretended not to know. Forget it, this is not easy to explain. In short, it's the digitization of strength. Latiz didn't know how to explain this. Oh, then how much combat power do you have, big brother? Let me estimate it myself, Sun Tian said. In normal state, it is 1983. If it enters combat state, it should be around 2,300 to 2,500, Latiz said. Oh, then I should be around 6,500, Sun Tian pretended to estimate. So strong, stronger than Nappa. Did you really only have a combat power of 10 when you were born? Latiz was knocked down by Sun Tian. Can you still fly? Let's go back. My friends will be worried about me soon. Sun Tian avoided the topic. The two flew back to Kame Island. Two quickly returned to Turtle Island, and everyone was relieved to see that Sun Tian had returned safely. Only Piccolo looked unconvinced. It seemed that the failure just now was a big blow to Piccolo. Sun Tian told everyone the origin of Latiz. Everyone was not too surprised. They were all his own people here, and of course they knew about aliens. But they did not expect that the one who came was Sun Tian's eldest brother. After you recover from your injuries, let's fight again, Piccolo said to Raditz. You are no match for me. You lost an arm. Although we were enemies at the time, I still want to say sorry to you. Seeing that these people were all friends of Sun Tian, Latiz was naturally a little more polite. That's not a problem. After Piccolo finished speaking, he looked like he was eating shit and had a horrible expression. Suddenly the flesh bud split open where Piccolo lost his arm, and soon, a brand new arm grew out. Everyone except Sun Tian looked at Piccolo in shock. It was the first time they knew that the great Demon King Piccolo actually had such an ability. Even Raditz was very surprised. Even though he had fought many battles in recent years and had seen a lot, he had never seen any race with such ability. Don't be surprised. This is the gift of our race, you can't envy it, Piccolo said proudly. Seeing Piccolo's proud smile, everyone wanted to throw a shoe at him, otherwise they would not be able to do it. Because of the previous battle, Guixian Island was almost destroyed. At the suggestion of everyone, they decided to return to the magic martial Holy Land in advance. On Earth, because of the previous battle, many governments have already felt it. If it weren't for the timely communication with the local station of the Magic Martial Holy Land, knowing that it was just a few founders of the Magic Martial Holy Land fighting, it would probably have caused panic. But even so, the status of the Magic Martial Holy Land has been raised again by various governments. The members who came out of the Magic Martial Holy Land also got to know the tip of the iceberg of the Holy Land's top leaders, and felt that they had made the right decision in choosing the Magic Martial Holy Land. The combat power is more than 8,000. Thinking that they are still within 200, all the members feel Alexander, and a wave of cultivation craze comes again. When Raditz arrived at the Magic and Martial Arts Holy Land, he was shocked again, looking at the members coming and going here. Although his combat power detection eye had been destroyed in the previous battle, it did not affect his vision. Although the strength of these students could not be compared with his, they were basically much stronger than the ordinary soldiers under Frieza. Don't think that there are countless strong people in the universe. In fact, in the universe, those who can break 1,000 combat power are already extraordinary strong people, and those who have a combat power of tens of thousands are even more powerful. This is one of the reasons why the Saiyans were called the fighting race of the universe. Like some other tribes, except for a few mutations, most of them are within 1,000 combat power, while the Saiyans have a combat power of more than 1,000 after adulthood. It's not an exception but a common one. There are dozens of people in the tribe with a combat power of over 10,000. Of course, because of this reason they were conquered by the Frozen Demon Clan and existed as tools. Because of the legend of the Super Saiyan, they were feared and directly exterminated by Frieza, leaving only Vegeta and 2 or 3 cats and fish. In the Magic and Martial Holy Land, from Latitz's perspective, the general combat power should be above 30, and there are dozens of combat powers above 100. Add to that Sun Tian's group of high-end combat power, and it's really not a small force. Even if Frieza knew, he would probably send someone to invite them to become part of his army. Along the way, looking at the facilities and conditions of the Holy Land, Latiz felt that they had been hanging around for nothing all these years. Since Piccolo and Latiz were both somewhat injured during the duel, Piccolo took Latiz directly to the nutrition treatment cabin. The two of them could be considered to have known each other without fighting. For Piccolo, it was such a good thing to have someone who was almost the same as himself to spar with from time to time. In recent years, the effect of sparring with Sun Tian has become worse and worse. Sun Tian has completely left Piccolo behind, which made the former Great Demon King very sad. With Latiz's arrival, Piccolo was probably the happiest one besides Sun Tian. Looking at the advanced equipment, Latiz was shocked again. You know, even in the Frieza army, only Vegeta was qualified to use these things. If he and Nappa were injured, they could only recover slowly. As the alarm of the nutrition cabin rang, Piccolo and Latiz walked out one after the other. Sun Tian and his people were preparing dinner, and the two just caught up. Let's not talk about Piccolo first. This guy eats just to try something new, but Latiz is different. The stomachs of Saiyans are so lawless. Under the gaze of everyone, Sun Tian and Raditz used their strength to tell everyone what brothers are. Nearly 90% of the food was eaten by the two of them. You know, Bulma specifically ordered to prepare enough for nearly 300 people. Of course, in addition to these two people, there is another person who is particularly ferocious. Although Chi-Tian is a Saiyan, he is also a Saiyan. The 1-year-old child has no idea what it means to be embarrassed. Nearly 5% of the food was swallowed by little Chi-Tian. Everyone finally knew why the combat power of little Chi-Tian was as high as 289 at the age of 1. Fortunately, there are many industries in the Magic Martial Holy Land now, which can earn enough money. Otherwise, he would be eaten out of money just by eating. At this time, Latiz discovered Chi-Tian's situation. Chi-Tian was knocked unconscious by Sun Tian because of the artificial moon. He had never been introduced to Latiz. After returning to the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts, Piccolo dragged Latiz to heal his wounds. Kakarot, this kid is not your child, is he? Latiz asked in shock as he saw Chi-Tian's tail dangling back and forth. You know, Vegeta and his 3 companions have been to many planets, but none of the human genes on any planet can combine with their Saiyan genes, so that Vegeta and his 3 companions, who are in their 30s and 40s, are still single and have no way to pass on offspring to the Saiyans. Unexpectedly, when they were on Earth, they found out that their younger brother actually had a son. Doesn't this mean that their Saiyan bloodline can continue, and the entire race will not be wiped out after a few people die? It's a pity that my combat power detection glasses are broken, otherwise I could check out the little guy's combat power. Latiz regretted why he didn't ask clearly before starting the fight. Although I fought very hard, I just discovered it now. Without the combat power detection glasses, some things seem to be very troublesome. Bulma took out a pair of combat power detection glasses and shook them. Excuse me, is this it? Latisse was speechless again. Sun Tian had told him that he didn't know the fighting power. He suddenly felt that the brother he had finally found seemed a little unfair. The friendship boat between brothers had tilted 45 degrees and could sink at any time. Beep beep. Latisse took over and tested Chi Tian. A bunch of data was displayed on the mirror, but unfortunately Latisse couldn't understand it at all. Can anyone tell me where I am and how I made such a mistake? How could the text here be the universal text of the universe? The embarrassed man handed it back to Bulma, saying he didn't understand. Mr. Raditz, Chi Tian's combat power is 289. Perhaps seeing the other party's embarrassment, Bulma said. How much? Can you tell me again? Latisse asked. Brother, 289. We just tested Chi Tian this morning, Sun Tian said. Impossible, he's only 1 year old, but his combat power has reached 289. He's a genius. Definitely a genius, Raditz said excitedly. Even Prince Vegeta didn't have such a high combat power when he was 1 year old. Kakarot, give me your nephew, and I'll help you train him well. How about that? You know, Vegeta is known as a genius. His combat power is only 100 when he is born, and just broke 200 when he was 1 year old. And Chi Tian, the 1 year old Chi Tian, actually has nearly 90 points more than Vegeta. Before Sun Tian could answer, Piccolo on the side panicked, hearing that someone wanted to snatch his apprentice from him. That was unacceptable. No, Chi Tian is my designated disciple, you can't snatch it from me. Piccolo stood in front of Chi Tian like a calf protecting his child. Why not? Chi Tian is my nephew. Why do you, an outsider, compete with me for his son? Do you think you are better than me? Latisse was also annoyed. They were familiar with each other, but now they were not familiar with each other. That won't do. When Chi Tian was born, we had already decided on the master-disciple relationship. You are interfering. Piccolo took the lead and refused to refute. Humph, that's because I'm not on Earth. Now I'm here. Anyway, I'll teach my nephew. Latisse also refused to quit. The two of them started to talk back and forth with each other. The rest of the people were stunned and completely speechless. Sun Tian saw that the two had been arguing for nearly half an hour. He really didn't expect that Piccolo also had such a side. As for Latisse, it was because they had just met for the first time today, so he didn't know much about his personality. However, it seemed that he was not as arrogant as the legend said, and he seemed quite humane. Okay, big brother, Piccolo, you guys should listen to what Chi Tian has to say. Sun Tian had to separate the two and said. The two who were blushing just now quickly changed their expressions. Kitian, I grew up with your father. How about you practice with Uncle Piccolo? Piccolo began to do Kitian's work. Xiaoxian, your father and I are brothers, and together with Uncle will definitely train you to be the strongest warrior. Latisse was not to be outdone. The two quickly switched from confrontation mode to shameless mode, and said all kinds of shameless things to the 1 year old Kitian. Sun Tian couldn't stand it anymore. Although Chi Tian was young, the Saiyan Tianren was very sensible. Chi Tian, who was already 1 year old, already knew a lot. Dad, can I let Uncle Piccolo and Uncle teach me together? Chi Tian said to Sun Tian with a cute face. Ah, that depends on whether your Uncle Piccolo and your uncle agree. If not, you can practice with your father, Sun Tian said with a sly smile. How can that be, Sun Tian? We have already agreed on this, Piccolo said. Kakarot, although you have amazing fighting power, you don't know a lot about Saiyan training. Let me do it, said Raditz. The clever Chi Tian said directly, then I'd better practice with Dad. No, Piccolo, Latisse and I will teach you together, the two said in unison when they heard Chi Tian's statement. Okay, since you agree, Chi Tian will teach you too. But 6 days a week you have to let Chi Tian come back to spend time with his mother. Sun Tian took one look and immediately made the decision. In this way, Chi Tian was taught by Latisse and Piccolo. Latisse took the time to bring the spaceship to the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts, and told Vegeta and the others about the situation here through the special channels of the spaceship. After Vegeta learned the information here, he was very shocked and very happy at the same time. However, he had already reported the news of Latisse's death to the headquarters. Vegeta asked Latisse to stay on Earth, and the two of them were also ready to find an opportunity to escape from Frieza's control, and then come to Earth to meet Latisse. In this way, before it developed, Sun Tian and others had to hide, and slowly developed on Earth. The joining of Latisse made the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts even stronger. With the help of Raditz, an opponent of similar strength to Piccolo, his strength improved rapidly. The two of them trained Chi Tian together, and would also learn from each other when they had nothing to do. Sun Tian would occasionally go to the two to spar with each other, of course under the condition of suppressing their fighting power, 1 against 2, but even so Piccolo and Raditz could barely cope with it. The Magic Martial Arts Holy Land was divided into several small groups. The management level, led by Bulma, was mainly responsible for the research of new facilities and the management of the Holy Land. The education level, led by the two sages, Kame and Crane, was mainly responsible for the training of students who joined the Holy Land. Tien Shinhan, Krillin, Son Gohan and others were the second echelon of fighting power. They sparred with each other and made progress together. Piccolo and Raditz were the first echelon of fighting power. On the one hand they trained Chi Tian, and on the other hand they always thought that one day they would be able to defeat Sun Tian together. Finally Sun Tian was the top fighting power. In addition to practicing, he would abuse Piccolo and Raditz when he had nothing to do. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years had passed.